surprise. Ryan Reynolds, of course, is always great. And then the kid who's Ryan Reynolds that's young has similar personality. So he did a good job channeling the smart Adam.
He did his audition, he did the first scene in Adam's
I don't know what's going to be short, whatever is short.
Deadpool.
Yes, he had it memorized, so I just used it.
Yeah, but if he doesn't, I've already prepped him.
Are you ready now? Alright, so I'm glad everyone had a good weekend. We caught up on some movies. Let's get started. We have no principals today, so we're moving right along. Gigi, what do you have for us for ASM update?
Just a couple of things, little things. First of all, when you check out yard signs and you bring them back before you come in, can you just pick the mud off the bottom of the signs, please? And second, when you go to put your clients into Back Agent, put the client that you want the email to go to from Real Satisfied in first. Because that's where it pulls from, it's the first client. So if you want it to be the wife, then put the wife in the first.
And sometimes you don't know until you're almost through the transaction, so you might just want to think about it near the end and then change. Oh, I thought it was going to be the husband, but the wife will give me a better review. So flip flop them to what you think, honestly.
But then if that happens after you've already got the contract and you,
Oh, I gotta tell
then
you.
you gotta tell me because I push it over to the accounting system with the wrong address. So
Okay.
So when in doubt, call Gigi.
yeah.
Okay. So, we have our office awards happy hour this Thursday at 5 instead of 4:30 at Top Golf in the Pond. We've got a sponsor, I've got some prizes and stuff, like it's gonna be fun, especially for you award winners. It's like a way to like celebrate together in a more relaxed setting, right, where we can be silly. And then we have like our peer awards for like our office level, like most helpful, rookie of the year, those kinds of pieces as well. So come to that. New listings, Shane. Ready?
I was. Hold on, I gotta do this. Ta-da!
What do we got? So 501
Smother Mom Farm Road in Little Elm.
Smother your mom farm. That is 635,000.
635.
600.
Diane Lucky built in 2020.
Oh, okay, look at that. I don't know how many beds are back. 3,400 square feet though.
Oh yeah, that was full.
5 beds?
I'm gonna go to the house Saturday for.
Oh, do you know the stats?
No, she's giving it to me.
Alright, moving on. Call Carrie on Saturday if you want more info. We've got 1110 Cedar Springs Drive in Prosper.
Lakes of
Lakes
Lacima.
of Lacima. 4 bed, 2 bath, 4,400 square feet, listed by Amy Herzog.
Do we have a price yet?
Nope. This one is 1337 Forest Haven in Anna. 4 bed, 3 bath, no price just yet. 1,800 square feet. Listed by Amy Herzog in incoming. 1,000 Mason Street in Aubrey. This one's
This is Josh.
339,999. 3 bed, 2 bath. 1,500 square feet, listed by Josh Acosta.
It's only been living in for 3 months.
Okay. Aubrey Creek Estates is what it was. And this one is 1512 Autumn Mist Drive in Allen on Morningside. 4 bedroom, 2 bath, no list price just yet. 2,400 square feet. Miss Terry Dwork.
You wanna
tell
talk about
us
it?
It's more than likely 467. We're gonna list
Okay.
it on the market next Friday.
Next
Hopefully,
Friday?
we're doing photos next week. So
Okay.
That's it. Nope. One more.
Copperhead Lane, 9924 in McKinney and Fossil Creek at Westridge. This one's a lease, 2,200 a month, 1,500 square feet, 3 bed, 2.5 bath, listed by Amy Herzog and Teresa Husband. Okay? Does anybody else have something coming? Janae?
I've gone off market, actually negotiating, so I'll probably have it under contract later today, but just in case it falls through. Union Park, 375,000, 3 bed, 2 bath, a little over 1,500, really cute, built in 2019.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Buyer needs. Nobody's working with any buyers, so you have found all the properties.
I also offered them against a property in McKinney,
Alright.
between 550 and 600, is what they're looking for, and they need a 4 bedroom.
4 bedroom in McKinney, between 5 and 6. Does schools matter?
They just need to be in McKinney.
They just need to be in McKinney. Okay. Anybody else?
I got a cash buyer coming, but it's not for another month or so, but they'll be looking in the area within 30 minutes of Frisco, or of McKinney. Probably up to 750, could go higher if need be. Cash buyers, looking for at least 3 bed, 2 bath, I think 25 to 3,500 square foot. They like by the lake, but yeah, they're moving here from California. Imagine that, to be with the rest of their family that helped move here, so.
Okay. Anybody else?
Need a property in Prosper, 4 bedrooms, 1.5, at least 2 plus. Looking at 2,300 or so plus square footage, willing to spend about 500. I got another one looking into Frisco, up to $600,000. Pretty much same, except a little bit larger, maybe 2,500 square footage plus.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'm got some buyers that are looking between 5 and 600,000. We're kind of flexible, you know, Aubrey, Prosper, Salina, McKinney, Melissa, Princeton, Allen, you know, kind of around that outer area. 4 bedroom, 2 bath with like 3, about 2,200 square feet plus.
Okay. Alright, does anyone have any people in mind for any of these listings?
Well, my Allen one might fit that.
Alright, Sharon, Terry might have one for you. Reach out to Terry. Anybody else?
Okay. And they would do a little elm also, they said.
Okay.
So, I'll reach out to you, Terry.
Alright. So, after the races is over, we do need to take the horses down, Jane. I forgot to add that to the list. Any culture council volunteers to help take and put the ponies away in their stables, I would appreciate it. If you take, we do need the help taking.
Can you handle all those horses by yourself?
So I'm
Oh
going
boy,
to
whoa.
We will need one.
Well, listen, I hope so. I have failed you all this month and did not do my homework on my stats like I always do. And so I will power through them very quickly, and I promise next week I will actually do the month over month. I fell asleep looking at stats, and I didn't quite get through them all, and so I apologize profusely. But in general, year over year, in March for the state of Texas, we had median price of $335, so that's an increase of 19% year over year, and our closed sales are pretty much the same as they were last year. It's a 0.9% increase, right, for the state. We are seeing, as expected, active listings from this time last year down to 8%. And then that 1% close to list ratio there across the state. The thing that always catches me by surprise is the 75 days on market, right? It's not that much, right, difference month over month, but when you start seeing the difference when you get into some of our markets, you see the difference across the state versus in our And overall, if you look at kind of where pricing 49 or 47% of the market is in that 2 to 400. If you add the 15% to 2 to 500, right? So overall, as a state, that's the average sales price. Think of that hyper locally in comparison, right? How much different our average sales price and where our price distribution is compared to where most people are across the state of Texas. If you look at the Dallas-Fort Worth area, right, very similar to the state, median price $391. We're at 22% increase year over year, with closed sales pretty much the same, right, at 8,900. That's a 1.4% decrease year over year, so it's very marginal. Active listings, though, are down from this time last year, 24%. And then we are seeing that close to list ratio of 4% above asking. So we're hotter than the state at large here in DFW. Total days on market, 63 versus 75 at the state, right? So we're seeing things, our days to close, our days on market, a lot shorter than the average across the state. The pricing distribution we see a little bit differently, right? We have bigger chunks in the 4 to 750 range than the state does at large, but you're still finding kind of most of the market somewhere between 200 and, well, now really 750, but that's kind of the majority.
So let me say one thing. So days on market, the way Netris is reporting it, is a little misleading to what we normally talk about, because they're from open to close, and we consider days on market from open to contract.
Correct.
So
This is open to close. So this takes into account cash offers, right? Shorter approval timelines, right? Those quicker turnaround on appraisals, those kinds of things that we're seeing anecdotally. No one wants to see these. I forgot to hide them. What do you want to know about Louisville? Median price is 402, year over year increase of 36, 9% above asking here.
oh, that's a lot. 36 years.
But look at, like, the market is basically 3 to 500. That's like 80% of the market right there, almost 90. Salina Prosper. So in Frisco, we saw a median price of $707,000. That is an increase from this time last year of 35%. So your cost of waiting a year cost them 35%.
Wow. 3% every month.
Yep. And our inventory is down. Closed sales were down just a little bit more steeply than in the rest of the cities at 6%. Active listings were down 41% from this time last year. And I think we all felt that, right? When we were looking at houses, when we were trying to list, we saw those shortages. But the close to list ratio was on average, homes in Frisco were selling for 10% above asking. Our price distribution is very different than the rest of the state, right? There is nothing under 400. There's like 2% of the market is under 400. The majority of your market is in the 500 to 9 or million range. You've got 40% in the 5 to 750, 31% in the 750 to 1 million.
Wow.
And on your market update that you sent out today, Frisco, Prosper, and Salina, the majority of the listings were all million plus. Like there's hardly anything. And
Right.
Yeah.
And so that goes to show for you guys, right? You have to be able to talk the luxury talk tracks. If you can't talk to a Viking stove versus a whatever, right? And you don't have some of those pieces of what's a jumbo and those kinds of things, you need to do some homework, right? Because the people that are looking to buy here are the ones that have a little bit of deeper pockets and are wanting a little bit more of that.
But you're still not getting Viking stoves at that million point anymore.
No.
That's more.
No,
Like
He gets
a
Maytag.
2 million plus.
but you have to be able to
That's
talk
what we
to
did at the
them,
kitchen
right?
meeting.
I agree. I'm just saying
They're
no.
coming with the expectation sometimes that I'm spending $1 million. I should be able to get these
There should be a sub-zero in there.
Right, and I'm like, I'm sorry, $1 million in Frisco is $300,000 in
Oh,
Louisville,
okay. Let's spend $3 million.
right? So being able to talk far does their $1 million really go, right? Those kinds of things. If you're wanting some of those luxury features, maybe we need to go to a different city, right?
Down south.
We can cut, well, you know, or south, or we can custom build, You wanna know some of those talk tracks so that you can deal with the objections when they walk around and go, this isn't what I expected to get in Texas for $1 million. So, McKinney, a little bit better, right? Median price is $529 versus $707. So your entry level buyer, right, in Collin County can maybe go to McKinney, and 500 is considered entry level now, right? And then that's still, we're looking at 30% above asking, or 30% price increase year over year. So you still have, it costs them over 30% to wait. And then you have the same kind of talk tracks as far as closed listings, or closed sales, active listings, and inventory. It's about 40% decrease in listings year over year. Days on market in McKinney were 47 total days on market. Where we saw in the state it was 75. And then you've got almost 12% above asking on contracts.
So yeah, just to talk about that in McKinney, McKinney is, as far as like price over asking, between the $300,000 and $400,000 range, it's almost 30% above asking. Between 400 and 500%, it's or 400 and 500,000, it's 27.5% over asking, and then 500 to 600 is 25% over asking. So
That's max or at?
that's max. Averages are across the board like 15% over asking in all three of those.
And so if you look, their price distribution in the 500 to 750 range is the same as in Frisco, is about 40%. So we've got a big chunk of our data, our listings that fall within that 5 to 750 range. In Salina, we're at 54.5% year over year median price increase. It costs them 55% to wait a year. And same thing, closed sales are up in Salina to 27. I think that's builders, right? And then days on market here are 39. 7% above asking though. And then here the price distribution again is in that about 48% in the 500 to 750 range. And everything else big number wise is in the 750 to $1 billion plus. But most of the market in Collin County so far has really been in that 500 to 750 range. Prosper. Year over year, back to the more reasonable 30% cost of waiting, right, versus 55. Median price though in Prosper is $920,000.
Living up to its name.
Now this one we do have the 72 days. I'm thinking maybe that has to do with builders.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you just look at the days on market, it's 20.
Yeah.
So that's from open to contract.
Contract, right? And then you've got 9% close to list ratio here. But look at where the majority of the market is. 43% is in the $1 million plus.
Okay.
So Plano is here, you know, didn't cost them as much to wait, only 27% if they waited a year. Median sales price is $518,000. We saw a 9% close to list ratio, 46 days on market, and similar to where expectations are, about almost 40%, 36.9% of the market is in the 500 to 750 range. But your entry-level buyers have a little more opportunity in Plano. So, you know, you've got probably about another 30 to 40% of the market in the 300 to 500 range. So, and if you're having some of those buyers that are wanting to be in Collin County that are in that lower price point, maybe going to some of those older homes in Plano could still be an option for them. Carrollton, median price in Carrollton is $412,000. That's 26.9% cost of waiting year over year, 7% above asking. And again, here your majority of your price point is under 500, right? So 3 to 500. So that's really where you can really get those first-time home buyers into contracts and properties. But the average age, you're built 83. So you gotta get them prepared, right, for going into an older home, and what that really means and what those updates and your inspections and whatnot. Forney is a little different, right? We see 335,000 median price. 60% of the market is in the 300 to 400 range, right? So there's a lot of opportunity for new builds in this area. Median year built is 2021. So if you can't get them a house in Prosper, drive out to Forney. I didn't get to pull some of the other cities that we love, so I will make sure I get those for you guys next week. Any questions? What are some of your feedback seeing some of these stats?
Forney's a good area for first-time home buyers.
Forney's a good area for first-time home buyers, for a new build. Yep,
Inventory is still low.
inventory is still low.
There's an article out there floating around that says that we're not in a shortage. You seen that one?
No.
Yeah, wasn't that Jared James?
No, that was just a statement, that wasn't an article.
Jared
So,
James.
the
He was
Jared-
trying to rebrand
He's
it.
talking like nationally.
Yeah, so the Jerry James video and talk tracking, to your point, it's not talking about a shortage. It's talking about
Low inventory, right?
yeah,
Is what?
But there's still listings.
it's the
not-
increase of buyer.
Yeah,
demand.
there's like more demand than there is inventory right now.
Right,
The
so-
inventory is not low, we just are at a higher need than ever right now.
Right, and so that was the talk track, was that we're still seeing very similar sales to what we had last year. And I mean, we see that here, right? Our percentage sales were almost, pretty level across all the cities. We're maybe a 5% margin difference from year over year. That doesn't account for the increase in demand that we're having. So if it's a shortage only because we have unprecedented demand. Does that make sense? So I think that is like, how do you spin it instead of turning it into, there's just not enough homes for people. It's not that there's not enough homes for people, it's just we have a lot more people wanting to live here. And therefore, we have increase
Not
in
enough
price.
homes for people to live in.
Right,
At the end of the day, like I look at my local market, there's just nothing in my neighborhoods.
right.
I mean, I remember years ago, you'd have, any given time, you'd have anywhere from 8 to 12 homes in the market in a, let's say, 400 home neighborhood is what we live in, right? 8 to 12, 0.
But the thing is, they're selling so quickly too.
Right,
that
when they come on, they're gone.
They're gone, right? And so
They're not sitting.
they're
Good
not
point.
sitting. So we're used to seeing them sit. We're used to being able to get them on the
Right.
market, have an open house, and expect the next weekend to have them go under contract.
Yeah.
In this market, we're having the open house and under contract sometimes the same day, right? And so it's all happening within that first week.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And we're selling them
So there would
sometimes.
be higher if they sat for a while. There would be 8 to 12 homes, yeah.
Right,
If they sat.
but they're selling and coming soon. Because we have so much. Now, yes, technically, we still have a shortage because there's a shortage of inventory compared to the demand.
Like you said, an unprecedented amount of buyers
Correct.
that we've never seen in the history of the world
Yeah.
for Texas.
But your
For-
listings are down 40% also because the interest rates have gone up, and some people are saying the cost of getting out of my house, because the amount,
That's right. That's
the
what
cost
we-
of me moving cost me, we're talking about selling a house that was worth 300, now we're gonna sell it for 500. But the qualifications, that now the first time buyer has to be able to accept 340, his payments are $2,600 a month. That's a problem for a
Correct.
first time buyer, we've lost that market, that segment's gone, now we have to look at what do we have.
And see, and those are the pieces, right, that we have to be able to talk to when we're dealing with the listing objections and.
So the listing, so that talk track is different than what that person's saying.
It is.
Jared, whatever the guy's name
Yeah.
is. Because if, listings are down 40%, that means, let's say 2 years ago, we would have 40% more listings on the market to sell. So in that scenario, that means we don't have the same amount of listings that we used to have. It means agents aren't getting the number of listings that they used to get, because people just aren't moving as much.
And I agree.
Does that make sense? I mean, I don't know, I mean.
I
There's not as much listing inventory.
I think it is, but we are also seeing a lot of people sell that wouldn't have, because they're trying to capitalize on the equity.
Well, yeah,
I'll let you know.
right, but the bottom line is, if there's 40% less listings than there were 2 years ago, let's say there's 40%, let's say we were even for 2 years ago, we would have more, I'm not saying there'd be enough, but that we would have more to sell for the influx of this unprecedented surge of buyers.
And I think we're also
But as
feeling
you
a
number-
shortage with builders, right? And the
That-
material
yes,
pieces,
good point.
right?
There's
Because
no inventory in building.
no inventory in building.
Builders used to have 6 to 12 homes available any time, at any stage. Now
But
they
the
don't have any.
MLS doesn't show the building.
Now we're like there's
Easy
no,
going.
pre-done thing to
True,
watch,
that's a good point.
And so there's a lot of layers.
A lot of variables.
The key point messaging is be careful with your messaging,
Right.
right? So talking shortage versus talking increased demand makes you feel differently.
Makes it sound better.
Makes it sound
It
better.
doesn't
It's the
scare.
exact same thing,
Right?
right?
You gotta be careful not to scare people from writing the list, but be honest and say, we'll help you figure out something, but you gotta be flexible and let's look at your
Correct.
options.
And as the
Right.
numbers drop, the percentage changes, cause see, when you only have 27 sales in all of Salina last month, that number, when you get one sale, that's 4%, so it
It
affects you.
makes a
Yeah.
difference.
That's a big number.
And Salina and Prosper, the main sellers are builders, right? And so there's only 27 because it's taking them that long to get inventory out, right? And so being aware a little bit of how you're phrasing things and how you're saying things can impact a person's decision making one way or another. It's not putting out a message, to your point, Janae, that scares them while you're trying to educate them. It's educate them, but still making them feel like you're part of the process, that you're supporting them, that there's hope. It just looks different.
I think we've gotta prepare them for realistic expectations
Correct.
and don't be fake and crap and make up stuff to get a deal.
But it's going to.
But don't scare the crap out of them either that it's impossible to get
Correct.
home or something like
It'll
that.
take you 20 to 30 offers maybe to get a property because we are competing, right? Prepare them to write multiple offers. Like, don't make an expectation that the first weekend, the first house we put an offer on, we're gonna get. Because that's setting them up for disappointment,
And
right?
then when you do get it on the first or second try, they're elated and they think you're wonderful.
Correct, and then they don't wanna make the deal blow up during inspections, right? Because they recognize how unique of a unicorn situation they're in, right? And so the same thing goes with sellers, right? Is also hedging expectations on their side, right? Like, we're gonna get buyers, we're gonna get a lot of offers, people are gonna try to negotiate during repairs. We wanna make sure that you're prepared to not be home during that, because you're gonna have 100 people truck through your house in one day, because there's that many buyers, right? So what are some things, because a few of you have been successful with getting listings recently, like what have been the talk tracks that you guys have had success with?
Well, mine was off market and it was a loyal client of mine who I helped him buy his last house. He got a letter in the mail from another agent saying, I've got a cash buyer for your house, whatever. And he called me and was like, what are your thoughts? What do you think about this? And so I told him I'd either call, but he said he would call him. And I said, well, these are the questions you need to ask. And then I talked about how I could help him. Well, he was adamant about not wanting to have his home staged and photos and all the showings and everything. So I was like, yeah, I said, let me talk around and see, you know, more than likely I can sell it for at least what they're offering you, if not a little bit more. And because he likes me, and he was like, well, I'd rather you sell my home than this lady I don't know sell my home. And hopefully Josh is supposed to be sending me an offer, and an updated offer, and you know, I'll have an executed contract. So I think the big thing.
Worst case scenario, you can submit it through instant move, depending on the price point.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for me is listening to people's needs. This is where I'm growing and getting better, because I always have the attitude of I want to do things with excellence, and the best thing for you is going to be to put on the market. Let me stage it. It's not that big a deal. We're going to have 1 weekend of showings probably, and I can have it sold and have, you know, drag it up. But I'm getting better at listening and hearing this older gentleman say, I don't want this, and I don't want that, and I don't want that. So then I have to go, okay, I hear your needs, how can I do this in the way that you want to do it? And I think that's key too, to figuring out what they don't want or what they're scared of and how you're gonna overcome.
There's
you
more
know.
than one way to sell a house,
Yeah,
right? It doesn't always have to go on the MLS.
yeah,
And then second, there were two powerful things that you said. One was the reason he called you was because he got I have a buyer letter. So the I have a buyer letters work. Two, your SOI follow-up was stronger than the marketing piece on the I have a buyer, and her marketing piece helped you get a listing.
yeah,
Because you've been staying in contact with your client and building rapport over time to where when he thought about buying or selling, he called you first.
he was at the pie party. I went and did a pop by, couple holiday, like last holiday or whatever, not Easter, but the one before, and yeah, Buffini.
Okay.
I think that also explains your statistics, because there are more deals being done in the power of the room than there are, she's not gonna list it on the MLS, it's not gonna have
NAR's
any.
coming soon policy backfired, huh? Yeah, to your point, because NAR created this whole coming soon policy to try to avoid sales in the room. And on the contrary, it's created an environment where it's made it more appropriate to a certain extent.
Yeah,
This is good there. But I
What does
digress.
it take to go, for you not to go in the market?
Right. Who else has had a listing?
Who wants 100
that's
people
been
walking
able to
through
go
their
through
house?
talk
Right.
Terry,
I
you've
don't.
got one coming up, right?
Mhm.
Where did those come up? You have several coming up is what I.
Yes, what I do is in my area of my farm, I send, usually it's been every, like bi-monthly. I've been sending it bi-weekly because I'm sending the market stats of what's sold, what's pending, what's active. And I just print it out, a little script, and then I just stick it in the mail. And then, or I call them, if I have their email, I email it to them,
Do you physically mail it or do you like walk by and put it in the mailbox?
physically mail.
Okay.
I'm working on the finalize.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
And I got a listing for that one.
So your farm mailers,
yes.
you've picked up the frequency, because
Mhm.
before you were doing a monthly, now you're doing it semi-monthly?
Because of the timing, the spring,
Mhm.
just
So for the next 2 quarters?
probably until, yeah,
Yeah,
and yeah.
okay. And then what else have you been doing? Has
Um,
everything been from your farm?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, and, or social media. I mean, I've got a lot of most of mine have been referrals or family,
Mhm.
signs. I try to market as much as I can.
So social media posting and your follow-up with your database. So I might have gotten a potential listing lead from sharing Tom's listing. You had a listing by the lake, and I shared it on my database, lake life in the city, right? That's all I said. And then just let the Tom's post do its thing. Ashley tagged Lake, which is her husband, and I'm waiting on them to decide if they want to move her.
Cool.
Now, I don't know if they'll offer on Tom's listing, but they're thinking about it now, something that they hadn't thought of, right? Before. What else?
You could try to get a home for them first if they have the financial means. There's nowhere for people to go, right?
Right? So,
And
fine.
then think about that, in a 7 million person metroplex, there's nowhere to go.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
And so that's an interesting thing, because that's kind of what's happening with Lake and Ashley, right? Like, I know that they drive out to Oklahoma a lot. They are always posting lake life pictures and that kind of stuff, but they don't want to leave the schools here locally. And when I saw your post and saw their tag, I was like, they're probably pretty serious that lake life in the city really resonated with how they wish they could live here locally. So to your point, finding those lifestyle matches.
Finding the house first, where it used to be had the problem with selling the house, right?
Mhm.
Now it's finding the house.
So Shane, can we do like a little exercise real fast? Can you
Yeah.
put one of our lists there, our incoming back on the board? I think it's more valuable than walking through websites right now.
You want to do a real listing?
Yeah, one of our incoming, it doesn't matter which one. Like this one's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so 9924 Copperhead Lane. Oh, well, this is a lease. Switched off. bear with me, I'm going a little rogue here, cause Tom
There's no
gave
price
me a
on
good
this.
idea. That's fine, it doesn't matter. 1512 Autumn Mist.
Yep.
In Morningside in Allen. So what do we know about Morningside Edition? Has anyone
It's a
sold
nice
in here?
neighborhood.
It's really nice.
It is?
It's on
Yeah.
the east side of Allen. Is that
Yep.
east side of 75,
It's
right?
next to our neighborhood. They're both Lennar homes.
Mhm. So
You
what
know.
do we know about like the floor plans about from
There's like
Lennar? There's 5 different ones,
Mhm.
right?
Well, 5 different 2-story, I don't know how many 1-story,
There's a 4
built in
bed.
2000 to 2003.
Mhm.
The big selling point for those 2 neighborhoods is the Celebration Park. It's a huge park right there.
So
And-
if we had to talk lifestyle, and we had to identify who would be the kind of person that would be attracted to this home,
First time buyers, maybe.
first time buyer,
Someone that needs to be close to shopping or to the
Yeah.
highway.
Family,
Maybe
family.
down to Dallas.
family near
Young
Dallas,
families with kids, school district
Yeah.
is
right?
good.
Because Allen is really good. Probably someone who has youth sports in their life,
Who
because
doesn't mind the
because
park
Allen
right
youth
there.
sports programs and their ISDs are some of the best in the nation, right? And so a lot of people are attracted to playing Allen football, in particular. What else?
You could even go the other way and say someone close to Sherman, because you're in Allen already, you could go the other way.
Right, someone who maybe does that 75 corridor
Yep.
drive on a regular basis is trying to get kind of more convenient drive. You see where I'm going with this? And so maybe when you're looking at the office listings, take a minute and think about, who do I have in my life that would appreciate the lifestyle that would come from living in this home? So this goes back to something we did probably, I think, 2 or 3 years ago on the lifestyle marketing from Marketing to Go. Do you guys remember that? When you were doing your descriptions in the MLS, keeping in mind who the target audience is, right? And using lifestyle marketing words to describe the property. So, close to shopping center, great schools, right? Because you're attracting someone who wants the shopping and the schools, right? Chef's kitchen, because it's a big, open, spacious space to entertain, and choosing the words that describe what your life would be like if you lived in this home. Does anyone have any examples of things that you would use to describe this property? Without seeing it, just based on what you know of the area.
Definitely close to 75 with easy access to George Bush, D&T, whatever. I don't know, something like that.
Close to Whole Foods where you can get organic shopping.
Yes.
Right? That's a good one.
Well, it's right by Home Goods and Total Wine, so.
The outlet mall?
Yeah, spend more money on your house so you save money at the outlet mall.
Right now, everyone's paying attention to HEB, right? And the development around HEB. Everyone's paying attention to PGA and those kinds of developments. So knowing what's coming in around it that's like got the news splash tied to it. So keep this in mind, guys, when you guys are looking at listings. I know most of you are eyes are rolling and kind of humoring me a little bit, but there really is value to thinking through your database and trying, to Tom's point, find the house for the buyer instead of the buyer to the house, right? And matching, or backwards, matching the buyer to the house versus the house to the buyer. Or whatever. You know what I'm saying.
You know what you're saying.
Thank you, Tom. Shay, put us.
That was at your brew when Caitlin attended, and she explained how she sets up the verbiage of her listings to try to target a buyer, to know how I explained the backyard and the lighting and everything. And she came to the brew
Yeah,
that morning.
that was right in line
Yeah, it
with
was like
that.
a year and a half
Yeah, that
ago, yeah.
lifestyle marketing
Mhm.
concept. Really finding what lifestyle does this home give you,
If
right?
the people like to sit outside, then talk about how
If
nice
you're
it
in
is, northern
Dillette,
view,
it's
whatever.
resort style living with
Yeah.
low maintenance.
Yep.
Right?
And that's why you see east facing, north facing, those kinds of things in certain areas, right? That
Watch the
attract
sunset
people
from your
looking for that
patio.
area.
Correct. So knowing those kinds of things. So with the websites with Moxie, how many of you have logged into Moxie? Okay. Those of you who have not logged in, please log in.
23% of them.
No, it's okay. Log in, especially to the website part. Okay, you don't pay attention to any of the rest of it. Your Zap page will eventually be phased out, and your Moxie website will be your new website. So it is important that you do take the website trainings as they start coming up, because you're going to need those eventually. Okay, so take the time to take the classes; those are coming up. And that's kind of why we're walking through it. It's a really easy setup for the Moxie websites, and it's very nice. So you can create your own kind of custom menus. When you go to the home button, when you go onto the Moxie website, it gives you kind of like this list. And you just go one by one and answer the questions. It took Tim Gann 10 minutes to set it up, and he's not the most techy person on the planet. So the fact that he found it easy and it took him 10 minutes says something about how smooth it is. You just have to go through the steps. So this create custom menu links is the one that kind of gets you to where you'll create your own kind of menu of links. So you can name the link and then have the URL there. So for example, if you want Jeanette's website on here, Jeanette, you can call the staging company and then have the website. This is an example of DT, right? If you want DT on your website, you can have that there. And then you can always preview. I don't know why there's all these slides. Okay. And then so you see it now, once you've gone through some of those steps, you have the title resources at the top of the mortgage loan. So these are where the links would show up along the top of your page. Remember last time we talked about how to get your home page set up if you wanted it agent facing or search facing. So this is like that basic template. And then you can do the same, if you want to move things around, you can go to that menu and organize them based on the order once you've created your links. So that's the next step. And here's where you would go through and kind of pick which one you want to do where, and that kind of thing. It's got a lot of customization factors to it. There'll be a lot more trainings on websites coming out in the next quarter. Right now, most of the trainings are on Engage. All right. Marketing. Some of you have you remember at the rally where they did like the videos and asked us like what our thoughts were about the best place to work? A few of us have our quotes in the marketing campaigns that are going to be coming out. So you'll be seeing those in the near future. Guess what? We already had all of these holidays. Next one on the 22nd is Earth Day. So if you're looking for a fun pop-by this week because you haven't done any of them, Earth Day, some seed packets that you can pick up at the dollar store is an easy, happy Earth Day. You're thinking about, working on your yard this weekend, yada yada.
Good old
Okay.
Mother Earth.
Huh?
Good
Good
old
old Mother Earth.
Mother Earth.
Yeah, I love on her. Veronica Hart in Plano said, I'm a new agent here, I'm very excited about the tools. This was an example of her quote from the sales rally. Passport to Paradise, guess what? You get a stamp for doing your business plan. So Janae, Heather, you all have your stamps because I checked off that you did your business plans. And we've had reviews on their business plans. If you have not turned in your business plan, Josh, I think you've done your business plan, right? And we've kind of reviewed it. We need to schedule that. So be sure you schedule with me if you want to review or check in with your business plans. Do a business plan. It could be as simple as I want to close 10 units this year and make sure I keep up with my marketing, and that's my business plan. Check and check, 2 things. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just have some sort of direction of what your goals are for the year. Core services, Kevin.
So we talked about prices going up. Before I get started, I had one of the largest compliments last week. I was talking to a buyer that is going to work with a builder, and the buyer's agent had me talk to the buyer originally. And one of the things I was saying to him was, if I can't beat his deal that he has from the builder, that I would let him know right up front exactly what's happening, and I always answer the questions truthfully and honestly. I work inside an office. For those of you that don't know, if Francis picks up a hammer and goes pop and hits me on top of the head, I don't get to work inside the office anymore. The builder's mortgage company is offering something to the buyer. And the buyer said, do you know that the agent that recommended me to you said that you are very honest and very upfront and will tell me exactly what you just said. So I would like to say thank you,
Is
Janae.
that Chuck?
That was Chuck. And Chuck is not short on words, and Chuck is a straight shooter. But he said, Janae told me if you couldn't do it, you would tell him, and you're very honest.
Yeah.
That's what we do together. We connect together. Last week we talked about our average prices. So for Francis's slide, it's interesting. When we say we're going to go 11.9% over a price of $500,000, what does that mean to a buyer? If the property only appraised for $550,000 and you had to go 11% over, it means that your buyer has to bring another $60,000 plus down payment plus closing costs. We talked about last week, the loan maximum for a conventional loan is $647,200. That's a conforming conventional loan. So the question is, what happens when we have to go to $750,000? What happens when we go up to $1 million? There are two different possibilities for new agents. If you come at 1:30 today, we will talk about what happens above $647,200. Each week from now on, I will let you know what the topic is so that those of you that even experienced agents want to include themselves can come to those trainings. What we do above a 647 is two things. One, 647 is the maximum loan amount. So the buyer already has his down payment portion above that. They can also do a second lien up to $250,000. So there's a second lien. One lien, 647. Second lien, 250. They still need a down payment. Another choice is a jumbo product. We do jumbo products up to $3 million. There's a down payment requirement, but that's something to have for you in the back of your pocket to know. First get the buyer qualified, and then we'll talk about the market that they're working in and see if that helps them get qualified. Interest rates were up dramatically last week. The war doesn't help, the political world doesn't help, and the world doesn't help. So we know that the market was very low before. And what happened is the Treasury then came in and said, we're behind, we need to catch up. And so we've seen an abnormally large movement over the last 30 days in the interest rates. If you have specific questions, we had a buyer on Saturday, and actually we had one Saturday and one Sunday, that just wanted to know if my credit score is this, if my loan is this, and if my down payment is this, how much are the interest rates? And I sent the guy 8 interest rates yesterday for him to look at. And so his bank was telling him he can't do, he only has one interest rate, and that's not true. So just be aware. I think that's my time for the day, and thank you all for your support.
Alright, rumble up, so for a second, we can leave. Okay, so who can tell me the difference in a warranty deed and a deed of trust? Do we know what those two powerful documents are? Nobody has any guesses?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. And Yates says? I know, but your client's gonna ask, and it's just something to know, and that's what my slides are on, so we're gonna go over it. So, the general warranty deed is going to be the document that transfers the ownership of the property. One reason why this is more important for the clients is guess who also asked for a copy of this when they put on their utilities sometimes? The utility company. So, I send over a copy of this, plus the closing disclosure, whenever the transaction funds for your files, da-da-da-da. So anyways, the warranty transfers the ownership of the property. We won't talk about the deeds of trust today, but nonetheless, that's a specific job for the warranty deed. Now, there are different types of warranty deeds, especially whenever title up until current date that the seller who is selling the property has no additional knowledge of any liens, encumbrances, all that stuff. The whole thing that our policy also protects the buyer from, right? So it's the seller's, the general warranty is the seller's last chance to say, that is correct, the information we have is accurate. Builders will only sign special warranty deeds because they are gonna hold themselves only liable from the time that they own the property. So anyways,
What's a specific?
well, specific warranties.
Special.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, so the next thing that I am gonna go over, that's pretty much all I really wanna talk about on this, is on Wednesday, we are doing our lunch and learn for this month, and we are going to take the morning brew, not morning brew, no, what's the marketing to go, that thing about the Trek compliance. And so we're gonna take and bring your computers, if you have any questions about it, if your Facebook or Instagram has any kind of compliance issues, we're gonna go ahead and walk through, make sure everything is up to par. If you don't have your Linktree set up on Instagram, we'll set up your Linktree. We'll kind of go over some different marketing stuff because over the next quarter, we're kind of gonna really launch into some social media stuff. Maybe try to do some TikTok, maybe do some fun stuff. But before we get into that, we wanna make sure that y'all are all Trek compliant. So come on Wednesday and we'll get all that knocked out and we'll have some lunch. What time? 11? We need to talk about that. I think we said 12. I'll send an email to confirm everything that's on my agenda today. But yeah, either way, we'll lunch and we'll learn sometime around lunch.
Huh?